Welcome to another episode of Euphoric, the podcast. I'm so excited to have Isabeau Maxwell here today. We have a really interesting topic, which I think is going to really spell some curiosity out for you and really get you honing into your spiritual journey as you've been going through your alcohol-free lifestyle. I'm so excited. Isabeau, tell me a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
I am an intuitive medium and I teach people how to hone their intuition. I opened up at the age of 32. I'm kicking it at 52 now, so I've been teaching people for quite a while.
Yeah, oh my God. Well, I love to learn from people like you. Anytime I feel like someone has some kind of esoteric knowledge or something that is below the surface of what we commonly perceive in our world, I'm just like all ears. I want to know, I want to hear everything you have to tell me and all that kind of stuff. But I wanted to get down to basics. So for anyone listening who like might not comprehend or understand what we're talking about right now, what does that mean to open up at 32? And what is an intuitive gift?
Well, I think my story probably would explain it best. So, up until the age of 32, I was very business driven. I mean, I still am in a way, but very analytical. I have a degree in mathematics from college. I was a complete skeptic. I didn't believe in spirituality. I didn't believe in religion. Like, I had none of that in my life at all. I thought it was all just ghost stories and fake. At 32, my grandmother, I was across the country from her, so I wasn't able to be by her side, but I was able to be on the phone when she passed with the family. And she passed away middle of the afternoon. My family went, to go get wine and chocolates. So yeah, I was a drinker. And because I was obviously going to mourn or figure out, I'm standing in my living room, middle of the afternoon. And she showed up in front of me in spirit form. I would say about 70% solid. She was smiling. She winked at me, scared the socks off of me. Like I remember I jumped back, I yelled, I was like, and then I decided that was a hallucination. And the next day, my husband at the time woke up and said, "Hey, I had a dream about your grandmother. It was very realistic. This is what she was wearing." And he described what I saw the day before, even though I hadn't told him. So it kind of sparked me to go, well, maybe this is real and I'm going to figure it out. A couple months later, I'm communicating with her. And now, in essence, that's what a medium does is they communicate with ancestors, spirits, our loved ones on the other side. There's a lot of different terms for them. So I did that for a while. And then all of the training I walked through, which is kind of where we're going to come in to this session, all the training that I experienced for the first 2 to 3 years was transformative because when it comes to using your intuition and your intuition being open, so this would be the opening up and the waking up and being able to utilize that sixth sense where you know things or you feel like you get a message or you see something and then the next day it unfolds and you're just a little spooked out. That's what I was working to hone so I could connect with her more strongly. So for the first couple of years of my opening of my intuitive development time, I learned a lot about what helps intuition and what blocks intuition. But the biggest thing I learned is that everyone is 100% intuitive. They just have it blocked in some way, shape, or form.
Wow. Well, you gave me chills when you told me that story. And I have a really similar story with my grandmother. So she passed in
Yes.
2021, and I didn't see her like the way you saw yours, but I got messages from her that day when she passed. And then she has a little symbol for me. So it's this beautiful wildflower that represents one of her favorite flowers. And anytime I see it, and it's pretty rare because it only blooms in the springtime in certain areas. So anytime I see it, I know she's speaking to me. And I'm also trying to conceive right now. So I have this like image of her being with my unborn child, but I wasn't one of those people who really bought into it either, I think. One
Mhm.
of those more skeptical people. And, even with psychics, it sounds like it's a cool idea, but like how much are you really going to read into it and buy into it? And it's almost like now that you have your own personal knowing of it, it's like, how could you not, you can either think you're crazy and you're making it up, or that there really is something below the surface that we don't understand in our analytical type of 3D driven world. So I think that's really, really special. So it sounds like you started a journey at that moment of really refining this gift and honing it in and getting better and kind of recognizing what blocks it, what doesn't block it. So I love to be able to, bring someone who's such an expert in this field and really talk about how it does relate to alcohol and how, removing alcohol can really help you. But tell me a little bit more about the story too. Like, how did you come on to discover, the honing and the refining of this gift? And then how did you come to discover that alcohol was definitely suppressing it and blocking it?
Well, when and you're right on when you start having experiences that you think you can't make this up. How could this be? When you're driving your car and you hear your intuition say the car is going to break down, but yet there's no signal or sign of that. I remember I said, you know what? I teach people how to access their intuition. I should probably listen to my own, like practice what I preach. I pulled in to the mechanic that was at the stoplight right to my right, took a right, pulled into the parking lot, rolled into a parking spot, and the car died in the parking spot. So when people use their intuition in their day-to-day life, it's not that everything gets better or that it's certainly not that you know everything. I know that's a myth. People think like, oh, they can see everything. It's that you have your internal guidance turned on. And so you're able to navigate in the easiest and the best and the highest kind of levels. That's why I teach people to be intuitive. And yeah, it's fun to see a street psychic, and they're going to tell you there's somebody in their family, a male that died of a heart attack and he was a smoker and he's connected to a farmer, and you're going to be like, woo, right? So, and yes, that stuff is out there, but getting in touch with your own intuition is just incredible. And when the proof started to become undeniable with my grandmother, I wanted more. I wanted to be able to access it on demand. Shortly after that, I met what I would consider my first spirit guide. This is somebody on the other side who, guardian angel, spirit guide, loved one, etc. And I worked with him for 2 years, and I would meet with him once or twice a week. Sounds like I went into an office. He is, not in human form, but he would show up in spirit form once or twice a week and give me some tasks to do. Boundary setting, uh, changing what I ate, changing what I drank, changing how I spent my time. And I started to realize he's getting me to declutter. And that's when we got into the deeper conversation around the reason why humans struggle accessing their intuition is they keep it cluttered. The best analogy that I give my students is it's like a hallway. And at the end of the hallway is the mail carrier. They have a message for you that's going to help you, and they need to walk down that hallway to deliver the message. If that hallway is full of excess baggage or chaos or to-do lists 80 miles long, or if the hallway is filled with the wrong food types for you, or if the hallway is filled up with alcohol, you're asking this mail carrier to walk down that hallway and navigate through it. So the more or the less clutter you have physically, emotionally, mentally, the easier it is for intuitive messages to come through on the regular. That was the one component. The other component was the balance between human and spiritual. And this is where I think alcohol probably plays more of a role, is in this piece. We have moments in our lives where we're very human, and we have moments in our lives where we're very spiritual, and we can't access our intuition 24/7. So anyone that tells you that they can and that they're always right, just be a little leery. Um, when we're very focused in on the human world, on this earthly solid existence, our physical body even, it's very hard to kind of relax into your intuition and get clear messages. So if my son's wedding, I struggled with my intuition. I didn't really need it or use it, but that's just a good example that I'm so focused in on being human that it's harder to kind of get that bigger perspective and sort of lift up off the timeline and take a viewpoint. And alcohol does the exact same thing. It gets into your body, toxin. Your body now is spending energy to process it. So anything you're asking your body to do, to process heavy foods, alcohol, any kind of a downer, anything like that, any sort of a depressant, your body is fighting to get it out. And so all of your energy is focused in on that fight. So it's hard to put your energy toward more of intuitive connection.
Oh, I love that so much. And it was so true with my story. I remember, for me, these intuitive downloads that I'd get come often with creative ideas that I meant to pursue. And then when I was a child, I got them all the time. And then when I started drinking in college, it's just like zip, it just closes the door, no more. And I couldn't even really journal. Like even journaling was really hard, like to even extract words out of me and to be that honest and that vulnerable on the page. And, my first few months alcohol free, maybe 1 or 2 months, all of a sudden it just comes back with a force. My writing is everywhere, my creativity. And I wrote this book, Euphoric, and in just one afternoon, every single chapter came in a download to me after
Yep. Yep.
years of writer's block. So I believe this so much. I would say for me, it was more of that creative urge and these ideas that came from versus like messages from beyond. But I also wasn't that spiritual before I stopped drinking. So I was one of those people who was maybe raised around religion and then kind of went the other way, more into more Eastern philosophy and just that kind of human understanding and very much that agnostic type of person. But not really, having a personal relationship with anything outside of me. It was all just philosophy. And then when I went alcohol free, all of a sudden that was like, oh, whoa, something is talking to me. Something is showing me signs. Something is giving me these ideas. And I felt so much more connected to it. So, from my personal experience, I totally agree. But I love to get like a third party to be like, no,
Mhm.
I'm an intuitive. I've been doing this for years. This is one of the biggest blocks to alcohol. Because for some people, I think who have this relationship with alcohol where they kind of go back and forth, like, oh, I'll take a break for a few months and then there'll be a vacation and stuff like that. We need a really deeper why to sustain it, why to actually stay in that alcohol-free realm. And for some people listening to the show, this is going to be it. Like, I want to develop this creative gift. I want to develop my intuition. I want to be supported and hear more messages from beyond. And, if alcohol is clouding that, why am I, keeping that up? So I love that. I wanted to go back a little bit to the time that you were meeting with your first spirit guide. I would love to know, how was that a sensory experience for you? Was it something you heard? Was it something you saw? Was it something more like quick downloads that you just knew? Like, how was the actual experience for someone who's never experienced anything like this before? Oh, I mean, I know it can vary per person, but what was that for you?
Yeah, everyone does see, feel, and hear differently with their intuitive channel. Absolutely. And I also want to throw out, kind of based off of what you were talking about, because I love what you just said. It reminded me to say, everyone defines spirituality differently for them. We land in all these different places all over the world, different cultures, different rules. So for some, like I might be saying I'm talking to my spirit guide, but for some, that communication might feel like they're connecting with their higher self. So for some, it's not necessarily about mediumship. It's about, and so when I heard you talking about like all of a sudden I got all these downloads, I was like, I feel like her higher self just sort of said, here you go. So it's you. And in the end, all of this is you. It's just a matter of having a bigger connection and access to more. So for the guide, though, and I forget to say this sometimes when I tell the story about my grandma, I've only seen a spirit that solid like 4 or 5 times in 20 years. And I just want people listening to know, just because you open up your intuition doesn't mean you're going to see something like that. But most of the time, it's subtle. First, you know someone's in the room. And then you relax into that and you focus into that. So your focus is going into what people would call the spiritual realms, or a scientist would say the spaces in between the molecules, right? The non-material world. That's that turning your focus away from the human. That's why the focus on the human body pulls you away from that. Uh, when it comes to the guide, however, I kind of felt that he was there. It was in my friend's on the edge of woods in his yard, and I was leaving, and I felt like somebody was standing in the woods. Couldn't see anything. I just felt like he was in the woods, and I was like, I feel like you have somebody there. I don't know what's going on. And I came back and I sat with it, and it looked like a heat signature. So when I see spirits, first I know they're in the room. Like you can just feel like somebody's looking at you. You can feel it. Then I relax and I kind of let go of the material world, forget about the solid around me, and I just relax into being curious. And it will turn into a human form, but in that heat wave type pattern. So it's transparent. I know there's something that's sort of different there. And then they'll come in a little closer to maybe show me their height or maybe show me their hair color or something. But it's not like the movies. Which it was, and people think because they'll watch a movie like Ghost Town or something where Ricky Gervais is walking around with all these ghosts that look like they're solid, just like everyone else, and they'll say to me, "Oh, that must be tough," and I'm like, "That's it's not like that. It's not like that." And when I first started, actually, I found out very quickly because I would have wine every night. Get the kids to bed, get everything's done. They're both sleeping. Now I'm going to pour myself a glass of wine. And I learned very quickly that I lost access to that when I would. So I drank at night for the first 2 years, every night for the first 2 years, because going from being a skeptic to all of a sudden realizing a lock on your front door isn't going to block somebody from being able to talk to you. It was a resetting of my understanding of the world around me. And it was a little transformative. So I would drink wine at night and it would shut it down.
Yeah. And then that changed.
Oh yeah. And then that changed. And then it was like when I started to figure out I was also going to therapy at the time because it really that big of a mind shift can kind of mess with you a little bit. And when the proof is coming in so ridiculously strong that you then you're like, okay, there is something more. Now I have to figure out how I feel about that. So I was going to a therapist, and the therapist said something brilliant to me. He said, uh, what you're going through is like never having seen grass or leaves or any greenery in the world. And then you wake up one day and all of a sudden there's grass and leaves and greenery. There's nothing wrong with the grass, the leaves, and the greenery, but you do have to get used to it and build a context around it. And that's what I started to do. And then I realized this is actually good, not bad. this is this is a positive. And then that helped me to let go of drinking.
Yeah. And with that clutter analogy that you said before in the hallway, what are the other things that you'd also decluttered?
First I had to declutter my time. I was the master at getting way too much done in one day. Like I would book 6 errands in one afternoon. I was very good at it. So I had to figure out a work-life balance. That was the first one. I had to get organized and take care of the things that I had been putting off for so long. A really big one was that I had to learn how to set boundaries because if you have a relationship with somebody and you don't have a boundary set, your mind it triggers into fight or flight. And when you're in fight or flight, you're constantly thinking ahead to protect yourself by what might happen. Clearly, if you have someone in your life like that, you do need that boundary. The second you set that boundary, your mind can relax and you're no longer being pulled into the human mind and you can relax into the spiritual world as well. So that boundary setting was a big one. The food that I ate, any sort of depressives, wine. That was my go-to. And also not saying no. Anything that gets your mind racing or your body focused on, you know, physical healing, those are the things that really take away. So somebody says to me, well, what about antidepressants? That's going to take it away from me, right? No, it's going to help you get to a point where you can set boundaries, balance your life, be healthier. So use a helpful medication to get you stronger because it's that point where you're stronger, where your intuition will be stronger as well. So any kind of detox is tools to help you detox those things is good.
Yeah. And is there any environment that, you were saying that it's not a 24/7 thing. Is there any environment that really helps and enhances it either for you or your students that you've noticed? Because for me, it's nature.
Yeah, so many people with nature. Oddly for me, it's a room where I'm alone. And it's not nature, it's just me. If I'm in a room by myself, I'll have more conversations in a bathroom than I will in a living room full of family.
Yeah.
It's like, so for me, I'm best isolated. I remember a number of years I did readings in my car parked in the driveway because I had 2 kids at home. And those were the best, some of the best readings because it was just the whole world goes away. But a lot of people, it's nature. And a lot of people, it's different elements too. Water is also a big one for me.
Mm. So let's say that, if everyone's intuitive and this is something so, a listener's really interested in, and especially as you mentioned that this is often sometimes that can come at the same time of an alcohol-free journey. It's the spiritual awakening you're having. And I truly believe that the people who are guided to reevaluate alcohol in their life, it's like the universe is tapping them on the shoulder saying, you have a really big purpose on this planet. And we don't have time to play around with this silly drink right now. And it is this awakening into who you're meant to be and the purpose you're meant to live out and the legacy you're meant to live But for someone who's so interested in this domain, what are some of the more practical ways that you can refine this gift and help sharpen it? And, for me, for example, I'll tell you that my experiences with my grandma and some of the signs and the creative downloads, I will say it's enough for me to be a believer and to listen to it, but it's still really faint, right? So it's not something that I can access even for a whole month, I might not be able to access something like that. So I'm just curious, how could personally, for my benefit, how could I get stronger, but for also anyone listening?
I think it's a matter of just setting your intent to move forward out of clutter. Now, it's not, you don't have to reach the end goal. You don't have to have all of your, mental baggage gone and all that. But forward movement is key. Intuition responds, your intuitive channel responds to your forward direction. So when we hold still, which is also, drinking, you're holding still, you're stopping yourself from thinking about things and you're not moving forward. So the things that you hold still with will shut down your intuition. The second you move in a forward direction, your intuition almost gives you threads to kind of pull you forward out of the pain or out of whatever you're holding still from. So my big overall piece of advice would be take a step forward in any aspect of your life. Set a boundary in a relationship, detox, start doing something that you love. Start saying no more often to the things that you don't want to do. That would be the first one. The other one would be to recognize your energetic body and recognize that you are energy and take some sort of a step to protect that. Now, I teach people something called GCP, which is ground clear protect. In the simplest terms, it's an intent exercise. There's no magic to it. You just have to think it. So you would think to Mother Earth, please ground me, anchor me to the earth. And then the next step would be to clear. And you would imagine water pouring through you or wind blowing through you and getting rid of everything that is not yours to carry, like your second cousin's, boyfriend's, friend's car problems. That's not yours to think about. And then the third step would be to protect your energetic body. So create like a bubble around you. Just picture a bubble. And that bubble is like a filter. It's only going to let in what it's supposed to let in, and it will stop what's not supposed to come in. When you do this once a day, and it's pretty obvious that quickly it takes 5 seconds to do once you've done it a number of times. You do this once a day, what you're doing is you're saying to yourself, my energy is important and I'm taking care of it. And my energetic space is important and I'm making sure that I'm okay. When you do that, I mean, it's a game changer. And I try to tell this to everybody because do it for a week and watch. Watch the people that you want in your life are going to come closer. The ones that you don't, they're going to quit, complaining to you. Like all this odd stuff happens because you've acknowledged that energetic body and how important it is and how important you are. So doing that every day is foundational. I won't teach a student unless they're doing GCP every single morning. So
I love that. And I love the visuals that come with it, like the
yeah.
the ground, the earth, the water, the bubble, all that kind of stuff. So let's take it a step further. Let's say we're doing our GCP. And
Mm-hmm.
let's say that someone is in the middle of a decision where they really have absolutely no guidance of like, should I go left or should I go right? And both are feeling, very equal in measure type thing. So if someone was faced with that, what would be the next step to refining, like a practical technique to refining the intuition to know which direction to go?
Oh, that's such a great question. Yes and no intuition is what I call it. It's pretty, that's what everybody calls it, but it is foundational also. And I still use it to this day. So every one of us has an intuitive yes in us, and every one of us has an intuitive no. So I would, it's not really a challenge. I would sort of entice someone to sit with what that intuitive yes feels like and sit with what the intuitive no feels like. And you can do this on purpose. Take a piece of paper, write the word yes on it, hold that paper and just say to your intuition, if it's a yes, what does that feel like? What do I see? What do I feel? Or what do I hear? And then set that paper down and pick up the other paper that says no. If it's no, what does that feel like? And you're getting used to how your body responds. Some examples would be for some people, if it's an intuitive yes, they'll feel pulled forward or they'll feel like they're pushed back. And it's not this big wow thing. It's not like this like big elegant guide walks in and says, today the answer is yes. It's like it doesn't have to be that big. Um, for some, they might feel hot or they might feel cold. A lot of people will feel like a tingle on the top of their head if it's a yes. Some people, I've even heard a student get a feel like their ears getting pulled for a yes. And I was like, that is the coolest thing. And that's got to be some grandmother on the other side somewhere. That's so cool. So everyone has different ones. Mine, for example, is the word yes will kind of drop down from the sky for a brief moment, or the word no will drop down. And if I'm very stubborn and the answer is no, and I'm not listening, 47 no's will drop down from the sky like they're saying, we're serious. The answer is no. It's like, got it. That right there is going to get you used to feeling your system, whether you see, feel, or hear. And then you can utilize that. And I tell people, if you're asking a question that is very personal to you, if you are standing at a car dealership and you're like, should I buy this new car? You're not going to get an accurate answer because you want it. So if you want an outcome, this is what you do. Go back to those two pieces of paper, fold them up so they're identical, mix them up in a bowl, take a minute to hold one, take a minute to hold the other one. You will react to one or the other one, and that's your answer without you getting in the way.
Hmm. I love that so much. That's so many practical tips that we can all use in that sense. And that kind of guidance to have that behind you whenever you're making those kind of decisions and moving
Yep.
forward with, things like that. It just feels like you have more support, that you're not going through this world alone, that there is some kind of guidance
Yeah.
system for you. And I'm curious, as my kind of last question before we wrap up, and maybe I'll ask you a throw ball about some of the books you might love to recommend, but I know that we often use words and language to describe, source, God, universe, spirit guides, afterlife, all these kind of things to make it as generalized as possible so that everyone
Mhm.
can kind of have an understanding of it. But I'm so curious, with so many years behind you of being this intuitive and, working with spirit guides and having such a divine gift, I'm just curious, like, what your philosophy is about what exists in this realm that we can't see. And feel free to get as esoteric and weird as you want. Like, I just want to hear straight from like what
Oh,
your personal
well,
belief
here we
is.
go. If you've opened that doorway, here we go. Uh, this is the general understanding that actually I'm pausing because I want to add one more thing to what you just said about we're not alone. Uh, that's a reason to detox because before you detox, you feel alone. And it's because you can't feel those that are with you and you're not alone. So that is one thing that helped me is to go, well, wait a minute, in my waking time, I'm feeling this, and then I'm not after I drink. So that ability to constantly feel like you're not alone is a reason to move in that direction, which I love. But this is what I explain to my students. Here's my philosophy. Yeah, 20 years, I've cleared buildings, I've gone into haunted places, I've taught people into which like I've done all of the spiritual stuff, and this is the bottom line. On the other side, and this is my belief, on the other side your higher self is a ball of light. And all around you are other higher selves, other balls of light. And think of it as a multidimensional spider web. You're all attached, you're all connected because we are. Those that are closest to you on that, multidimensional spider web are your soul mates and your soul group. Now, your ball of light, when you come down here to have a life, you take a little chunk of that light out, send it down into a body. It runs around, has a life on linear time because your higher self wants linear time experiences because it doesn't have those itself. And then when the body dies, that little ball of light crosses back on over, reconnects with the higher self. That's in essence how I have always understood it now at this point. Not always understood it, but at this point, this is how I see it clearly. And then somebody says to me, well, what is God? It's the whole thing, the absolute whole thing. It's the complete connection amongst all. That's how I see us interacting. It explains so much. It explains that we're not down here to learn lessons, we're down here to have an experience. It explains that when you meet somebody and you've known them forever, but you just met them, yeah, you're hanging out on the other side right next to each other. It's why when something happens to a soulmate or a child of yours or somebody really close to you, even if you don't even know it, you feel it. It's because that spider web gets shook and they're closest to you. So we are all interconnected. We just decided to come down and get into these, meat suits that like isolate us from knowing everything and being able to exchange everything so we could have this experience of a lifetime together.
Oh, chills again. I love this idea. I'm gonna definitely adopt it. I think that's a really beautiful expression. And I'm so curious. This opens up a few more questions for me. When you have this soul kind of family or that soul, connection that you have with people, even if you're not necessarily related to them on this realm, do you think that some people like that soul contract idea that some people come to play a specific role for your benefit, even if that's a bad role?
Yes, I do believe that. I'm one of those teachers that's not going to sugarcoat everything and say, "Oh, everything works out the way it's supposed to." We do. We have contracts, and I was talking to somebody recently, and they said, through everything my family's going through, I would have thought that my dad would have woken up and like figured this out because I did. Why didn't he? And a really cool message came through, and I saw the two of them on the other side before they came down here. And the dad, higher self, says to the daughter, higher self, we're going to go down and we're going to have a lifetime together. And this is going to be our soul contract. And when you're about XYZ years old, you're going to wake up to something, and I'm not. And I'm going to do that so you know you've woken up. So people will come down here, and I know it's really easy for us to be like, oh, they did this bad thing or difficult thing. Sometimes we volunteer to do something not great so that the person has that earthly comparison to have their great experience. So it's all interchanging, and we're always showing up for each other. And sometimes it's in a nasty way.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that really hits home because I once met with a shaman and she asked me basically about the person who had hurt me the most in my life. And that happened to be like an ex that just a toxic ex I had in my 20s, but pretty disastrous type of interdynamics we would have. And she's like, okay, plop him in your soul family. I'm like, what? Like I just thought that was like a random thing, but I can actually see that I wouldn't be who I am today and have the purpose I have today and be able to support and have the impact that I do for so many people on this planet and have the legacy that I'm building and the purpose that I have, I think if I didn't have that experience. And so instead of writing it off as that like one toxic chapter, it's like, whoa, what if that actually like is the thing that 180'd me into the person I'm meant to become? And it almost gives a sense of forgiveness or even a little bit of fondness for the role that that person played, even if it was like purely negative from a very logical standpoint, but from that more spiritual standpoint, being like, wow, they actually sacrificed a lot to play that role for my benefit in this lifetime so that I could do X, Y, and Z or become this person. So that totally shook my world when I heard that, when the shaman had me do that. And I'm just so fascinated by all that kind of stuff and how we are all playing into each other's balls of light and stuff like that. Okay, I could talk to you.
Everyone has a role. Yeah, everyone has a role, and it's important. But for me, so I want to add to what you just said because you could not have said it better. That's exactly what happens. You have a really bad situation. I was married for 20 years. Best thing I ever did 9 years ago was divorce him. So and today I'm showing up for people in the way that I want to show up for people. I'm showing up for people in the way that I wasn't showed up
Mm,
for. And I didn't learn how valuable that was and how helpful that was in a teaching platform. So I'm too also, following the calling and et cetera, et cetera. But I also recognize the human side, and I don't ever say it's okay. No, what you did was horrid, wrong. You are just not okay, and boundary, all of that kind of stuff. So the judgment is okay to have too, which I'm not saying you didn't, but the judgment is, I mean, it's healthy. I just think that sometimes in some spiritual realms people can go like a little like, you know, say all the nice things to get away from the fact that that was really, really crappy and really bad to do to someone. So I try to balance it as much as I can. Like, I'm not gonna like you, but thank you. I'm not gonna forgive you, but thanks for the boost. That really sucked. So yeah, it's fascinating.
yeah. Well, we've covered so much from the intuitive gifts, the kind of spiritual realm, the balls of light, the soul contracts. I'm curious, what are some of, do you have any favorite books if someone wanted to like lean into this, or maybe documentaries or anything someone can kind of sink their teeth into to like learn more about this kind of stuff?
I'm a little bit of an odd duck with that, in that I would recommend someone find multiple teachers, and they're gonna learn just in that. I'm not a fan of following one person. I'll tell you that right now, because that's a living person. We're all flawed. As long as we're in a body, we're flawed. So when it comes to books, teachers, movies, spread yourself out. Like do a couple of them, right? You can Eckhart Tolle, that's great. Uh, but sprinkle in a little bit of, Abraham Hicks. Come hang out with me. That'd be cool. But find a couple of sources. I'm trying to think of the gentleman that I really like that talks about the exact same stuff I do, but he comes from the scientific. Joe Dispenza, right? Round it out. You've got what I just described was a theorist. I've got a channeler and a science-based person and a former skeptic. The four of us, you'll do just fine. So I wouldn't recommend any specific book to learn from. I would say start taking some courses, go with your gut. If the person you're learning from feels like, they're not making it about you, then yeah, move on, find another one. But spread yourself out a little bit because you'll learn a whole lot from gathering information from multiple sources instead of one.
And
Sorry, it's
tell,
probably not the answer you were looking for.
well, we got some good names there to recommend. Tell the listeners if someone wants to learn more with you, how they can do so, where you're found online, all that good stuff.
I do a really good job at keeping everything at one website, and it's The Sage Method. So TheSagemethod.com.
Okay, perfect. Well, we'll have that in the show notes for you
Thank
guys.
you.
And be sure
Yeah.
to reach out to Isabeau if this episode was helpful. I'm sure you're on the socials. Someone can DM you and stuff like that. And check out your website and list all the services you have or the courses that you have to offer. This was really fun for me, and I'm excited for the GP, no,
GCP.
GSGCP.
Yep. GCP.
The
Do it for
acronyms.
a week. It's you really, you'll be like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll definitely try that. Well, thank you so much for your wisdom today, for sharing your heart and these gifts that you've been able to refine and deepen. And just a shout out for anyone listening to this episode who wants to cultivate this work more and feels called to it. It's for a reason. It's there for a reason that's interesting to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.